I am 32 years old, a financial analyst from Boston who thought I found true love. That night at Le Bernardin, when I proposed to Amanda on our 3rd anniversary, her eyes sparkled with happy tears. Our relationship seemed perfect to everyone. But in the last month, something changed. She became distant, secretive. Then came that strange text from Jessica, her friend, warning me to be careful. I never imagined that hours later I would open my door to find police officers with serious accusations. Before I tell you how my perfect life shattered in seconds, let me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe to follow my journey from rock bottom back to justice. The evening I met, Amanda changed my life forever. It was at the Boston Children's Hospital fundraiser 4 years ago. I was there representing my firm, sipping mediocre wine and making small talk with potential clients. That's when I saw her across the room, confidently engaging with everyone around her. Amanda had this magnetic charm that drew people in. Her laugh was infectious, her intelligence obvious in every conversation, and her ambitious nature matched my own. She worked as a marketing executive for a luxury brand, a career she spoke about with genuine passion. Sherman Wright. From Blackwell Financial, she asked when we finally crossed paths near the silent auction tables. Her directness caught me off guard, but I appreciated it. Your firm donated that amazing Nantucket vacation package. Very generous. That led to a 2-hour conversation about everything from investment strategies to our shared love of sailing. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers and made plans for dinner that weekend. Our relationship progressed naturally. We shared so many interests: weekend hikes in the White Mountains, obscure jazz clubs, and a mutual obsession with finding the best seafood in New England. More importantly, our values aligned. We both wanted success, but believed in giving back. We dreamed of family, but were committed to establishing our careers first. After 3 years together, proposing felt like the obvious next step. I spent weeks finding the perfect ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds that matched her eyes. At Le Bernardin, her favorite restaurant in New York, I dropped to one knee as the dessert arrived with the ring hidden beneath a chocolate dome. Absolutely. Yes, she said, without hesitation, tears streaming down her face as the entire restaurant applauded. We immediately began planning a destination wedding in Hawaii for the following spring. Her enthusiasm for the details, the way she researched venues and created inspiration boards, only confirmed I had made the right choice. This was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. But things began to change after the engagement announcement. Subtle at first, then increasingly obvious. Amanda started guarding her phone, changing her password, and turning it face down whenever I entered the room. There were unexplained absences, meetings that ran late with no follow-up details, and weekends allegedly spent with girlfriends that could not be verified. Just swamped with work, she would say dismissively whenever I asked. This new client is demanding. Then came financial discrepancies. Since our engagement, we had opened a joint account for wedding expenses. Money would disappear without receipts or explanation. I paid the deposit for the photographer, she would say. But when I asked to see the contract, she would get defensive. Do you not trust me to handle simple wedding tasks? Her new friend Tyler appeared around this time. He was supposedly a consultant working with her company, but something about him made me uncomfortable. The way he looked at me when Amanda introduced us, like he was assessing a mark. The private jokes they shared. The frequent text messages she would receive from him at all hours. Jessica, Amanda's longtime friend, pulled me aside at a dinner party with concern in her eyes. "Sherman, is everything okay with you two?" she asked quietly. "Of course. Why wouldn't it be?" Jessica hesitated. "Amanda seems different lately. Be careful, okay? Just pay attention." I dismissed her warning initially, but then started noticing more concerning signs. An unfamiliar diamond bracelet in her jewelry box. Receipts for expensive dinners on nights she claimed to be working late. A hotel keycard from the Four Seasons that fell from her purse. The internal conflict was agonizing. Was I being paranoid and controlling, or was I ignoring obvious red flags? I valued trust in a relationship, but the evidence was mounting that something wasn't right. Things reached a breaking point when I borrowed her iPad to check email while my phone was charging. A message notification popped up. Tyler, did you get his account numbers? Time is running out. That night I confronted her as calmly as possible. Is there something going on between you and Tyler? I asked as she prepared for bed. Her reaction was immediate and explosive. You went through my messages. How dare you invade my privacy? I didn't go through anything. The message appeared while I was using your iPad. Right, she scoffed. And I suppose it just opened itself too. You know what your problem is, Sherman. You are controlling and insecure. Maybe this engagement was a mistake. Her words stunned me. This wasn't the Amanda I knew. Her eyes had turned cold, calculating. You have no idea who you are messing with, she said in a tone I had never heard before. It wasn't just angry, it was threatening. I tried to salvage the conversation, to understand what was happening to us, but she grabbed her purse and stormed out. She didn't come home that night. I sat awake until dawn, wondering if our entire relationship had been an illusion. After our fight, Amanda returned the next morning, acting as if nothing significant had happened. She breezed in with coffee and bagels, chatting about wedding venues, as though she hadn't threatened me just hours earlier. This pattern of behavior became our new normal. Whenever I attempted to discuss our relationship issues, Amanda would either explode in anger or twist my words until somehow I was apologizing to her. You know I love you, she would say, stroking my face after making me feel irrational for questioning her. I just need you to trust me completely. Gradually disturbing revelations about Amanda accumulated. When speaking with her mother on the phone, I overheard references to Amanda, growing up in Philadelphia, though she had always told me she was from Seattle. When I mentioned this discrepancy, she claimed her mother was confused about dates, then quickly changed the subject. Our financial situation became increasingly concerning. Despite claiming she needed to economize for our wedding, Amanda purchased a new designer wardrobe and frequently came home with shopping bags from luxury boutiques. They were having a sale, she would explain vaguely. Plus, I deserved to treat myself occasionally. The most damning evidence came when I spotted Amanda having lunch with a man she had described as her abusive ex-boyfriend, someone she claimed to fear and avoid at all costs. They looked intimate, comfortable, nothing like people with a troubled history. When confronted, Amanda claimed it was a different ex, then accused me of stalking her. Are you following me now? That's seriously disturbing, Sherman. One evening, while searching for our insurance documents, I discovered a draft email in a folder on our shared computer. It detailed plans for transferring my investment portfolio and property into joint accounts immediately after our marriage. There were specific references to liquidity options and offshore banking that sent chills down my spine. Simultaneously, Amanda was systematically separating me from my support network. She would create conflicts with my friends, claiming they had made inappropriate comments toward her. She suggested my sister disliked her and manufactured evidence of slights. She scheduled wedding planning activities whenever I had standing plans with my father, forcing me to cancel repeatedly. Your friends never really liked me anyway, she would say. We only need each other. After weeks of mounting evidence, I finally confided in my best friend Marcus during a lunch meeting. Something isn't right with Amanda, I admitted. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Marcus listened intently as I detailed the inconsistencies and manipulations. His face grew increasingly concerned. Sherman, this doesn't sound like pre-wedding jitters. This sounds calculated. Have you considered that she might not be who she claims to be? On Marcus's recommendation, I hired a private investigator, feeling like a character in a thriller movie, rather than someone planning his wedding. The results were devastating. Amanda Winters had previously been Andrea Wilson, and before that, Angela Watson. She had a pattern of engaging wealthy men, becoming engaged, then systematically draining their accounts before disappearing. In 2 cases, she had married the men before vanishing with their assets. Tyler wasn't just a friend. He was her accomplice, having played a similar role in at least 3 previous cons. Together, they had defrauded victims in multiple states, always staying just ahead of legal consequences by changing identities. Most alarmingly small sums had already gone missing from my account's test withdrawals that I had attributed to bank errors. The PI documented Amanda taking my financial statements and making copies. There was even evidence she had obtained a secondary phone in my name potentially to authorize financial transactions. The weight of these revelations crushed me. 3 years of memories of loving someone who had been playing a character designed to appeal to me. Every coincidental shared interest, every seemingly vulnerable moment, all calculated to lower my defenses. I spent a weekend gathering all the evidence, making copies of the PI's findings, securing my financial accounts, and preparing to end the relationship. I decided a clean break was necessary with all the evidence presented at once, so Amanda couldn't manipulate the situation. On Monday evening, I arranged the documents on our dining table and waited for Amanda to return from work. But she arrived home unexpectedly, early catching me organizing the evidence. I watched her assess the situation, her eyes darting from the files to my face. In a matter of seconds, her demeanor transformed completely. "Sherman, what is all this?" she asked, her voice breaking as tears filled her eyes. Gone was the cold, defensive woman of recent weeks, replaced by the vulnerable, loving Amanda I had fallen for. "I know everything, Amanda. Or should I say Andrea, or Angela?" Her expression flickered briefly before settling back into wounded innocence. "I don't understand what you are talking about. You are scaring me. The con is over. I know about the previous fiancés, the identity changes, the coordination with Tyler. I have frozen my accounts and contacted the police about your fraud scheme. This last part was a bluff, but it had the desired effect." Amanda's mask dropped completely. Her tears dried, instantly replaced by cold calculation. "We could still fix this," she said, her voice now practical and businesslike. "Maybe we take a break, reassess. There is no need to make hasty decisions. There is nothing to fix. We are done. I want you out of my apartment tonight." Amanda stared at me for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then a chilling calm settled over her. "You will regret this. Just wait." She walked calmly to the bathroom with her phone. I could hear her speaking quietly, but couldn't make out the words. 10 minutes later, she emerged, grabbed her purse, and left without another word. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief mixed with profound sadness. The adrenaline of the confrontation left me exhausted, but grateful it was over relatively cleanly. I began gathering her essential belongings into a suitcase for her to collect later. That's when the knock came, firm and authoritative. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing there with grim expressions. "Sherman Calloway." "Yes, that's me. We need to speak with you about some serious allegations that have been made against you." "What allegations?" I asked, genuine confusion in my voice as I stood in my doorway facing the 2 officers. One tall and weathered, the other younger with a rigid posture. Both wore expressions that made my stomach drop. "Sir, we have received a report of domestic violence and theft," the older officer stated flatly. "We need to come in and ask you some questions." My mind raced as I stepped aside to let them enter. This had to be some mistake. There must be some misunderstanding. I live alone well with my fiancée, but we had a disagreement, and she just left. The younger officer's eyes narrowed. "Your fiancée, Amanda Winters, has filed a report stating that you assaulted her when she confronted you about stealing her family jewelry. She has bruising consistent with her statement." The room seemed to tilt. "That's absolutely false. I would never hurt Amanda or anyone, and I certainly didn't steal anything." "Mind if we take a look around?" the older officer asked, though it wasn't really a question. "Go ahead," I said, still struggling to process what was happening. "I have nothing to hide." The officers began methodically moving through my apartment. I followed them, trying to explain about Amanda's history of fraud, about the investigation I had conducted, about the evidence on the dining room table. But I could see in their faces they had already made judgments. "Sir, what's in this drawer?" the younger officer asked, pointing to my dresser. "Just clothes, some watches, personal items." He pulled the drawer open, and there, nestled among my socks, was an antique diamond necklace I had never seen before. My blood ran cold as I realized what was happening. That's not mine. I have never seen that before. Amanda must have planted it. The officers exchanged knowing looks. "Sir, turn around and place your hands behind your back," the older officer instructed. "Wait, please. Let me show you the evidence I collected. She's done this before. She's a con artist. I can prove it." But as the words left my mouth, the younger officer was already holding up the folder of evidence from my dining table, now completely empty. This folder. In the few minutes she had spent in the bathroom, Amanda had managed to remove all the documentation. The realization hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't an impulsive reaction to being caught. This was a calculated contingency plan. "Sherman Calloway, you're under arrest for domestic assault and grand theft. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The familiar words from countless TV shows now directed at me as cold metal handcuffs clicked around my wrists. I felt dizzy, disconnected, as if watching myself in a nightmare. They walked me through my own apartment, past the photos of Amanda and me smiling on vacation, past the wedding planning binder she had so enthusiastically created. As we reached the door, the older officer grabbed my phone and wallet from the entry table. "You'll get these back when you're processed." The humiliation intensified as they led me down the hallway of my building. Mrs. Jacobson, my elderly neighbor, peered out from her door, eyes wide with shock. The elevator ride was silent and suffocating. In the lobby, the night doorman, Richard, who had always greeted me warmly now, stared with a mixture of surprise and judgment. Outside, a small crowd of curious neighbors had gathered, drawn by the police cars' flashing lights. And there, standing at the edge of the group with perfect theatrical timing, was Amanda. Her eye was visibly bruised, something that had definitely not been there when she left my apartment less than an hour ago. As the officers guided me toward the patrol car, Amanda stepped forward, her face a perfect mask of victimhood, tears streaming down her face. But when she was positioned, just right where only I could see her expression clearly, her lips curled into a satisfied smirk. "Have fun in jail, loser," she whispered as I passed. The words hit harder than any physical blow could have. In that moment, I understood that everything had been calculated from the beginning. Every smile, every kiss, every proclamation of love, all leading to this moment of perfect revenge for rejecting her scheme. The ride to the police station passed in a blur of shock and disbelief. I tried again to explain the situation to the officers, but my words sounded hollow even to my own ears. A bruised woman with jewelry found in my possession versus my claims of an elaborate setup. I knew how it looked. At the station, they photographed me, took my fingerprints, cataloged my personal belongings. Each step of the process stripped away another layer of dignity. The booking officer asked routine questions in a bored voice, as if my life wasn't imploding with each passing minute. "You get one phone call," he said, sliding the station phone toward me. I stared at it, my mind racing. A lawyer was the obvious choice, but something else occurred to me, something Amanda couldn't possibly know. My father and I had a complicated relationship. After my mother died when I was 12, he had buried himself in his work, leaving me largely to raise myself. We had drifted apart over the years, our relationship cordial but distant. I rarely mentioned him to friends and had only introduced him to Amanda once at a stilted dinner 6 months into our relationship. She knew he worked in law enforcement, but little else, as he rarely discussed his work, and I didn't volunteer information about a relationship that was primarily conducted through holiday phone calls and occasional dinners. I dialed his number, hoping he would answer a call from the police station at 10:30 at night. "Hello." His voice was alert despite the hour. "Dad, it's Sherman," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm in trouble. I've been arrested." There was a pause then. What happened? In the precious seconds I had, I gave him the briefest explanation possible. Amanda the con, the false accusation, the planted evidence. When I finished, his response was measured and calm. "Stay calm. Don't say anything else to anyone. I'll be there in 20 minutes. The confidence in his tone confused me. I had expected shock, disappointment, perhaps reluctant assistance, not this immediate assured response. After hanging up, I was led to a holding cell, a small concrete room with a bench and nothing else. 2 other men were already there, one sleeping on the floor, the other staring blankly at the wall. Neither acknowledged me as I sat on the bench, trying to make sense of how my life had imploded so completely in a single evening. I replayed every moment with Amanda now, seeing all the warning signs I had missed or dismissed, the inconsistencies in her stories about her past, the convenient computer glitch that had prevented me from seeing photos from her alleged childhood, the way she had isolated me from friends who might have questioned her more closely. 40 minutes passed before I heard commotion outside the holding area. Raised voices, a sense of sudden activity. The door to the holding area opened, and an officer I hadn't seen before approached my cell. "Calloway, come with me," he said, his tone notably more respectful than anyone else's had been since my arrest. He led me back to the main area of the station, which had taken on an entirely different atmosphere. Officers who had barely glanced at me during processing were now standing straighter, exchanging uncertain looks, and there in the center of it all was my father, but not the reserved, emotionally distant father I knew. This was Police Chief William Calloway, in full uniform, stars on his collar, catching the fluorescent light, his commanding presence filling the room. For 15 years he had led the Boston Police Department, his reputation for integrity and no-nonsense leadership, making him both respected and feared within the department. His eyes locked with mine briefly, a subtle nod acknowledging my presence before he turned back to the station commander. "Would you mind explaining why my son is in handcuffs?" he asked, his voice deceptively calm, but carrying an undercurrent of authority that made everyone in the room stand a little straighter. The station commander, a lieutenant I recognized from the booking process, was visibly uncomfortable. "Chief Calloway, we had no idea he was your son. He was brought in on domestic violence and theft charges. The alleged victim had visible injuries, and we found stolen property in his possession." My father's expression didn't change. "And did anyone bother to run a background check on the alleged victim, or investigate the possibility that the evidence was planted as my son claimed?" "Sir, we followed standard procedure for a domestic call. The evidence appeared clear-cut." "Clear-cut," my father repeated the 2 words, somehow containing volumes of disappointment. "Lieutenant, I want to see the complete arrest report and evidence log. Now. And get those handcuffs off my son." As an officer hurriedly removed my handcuffs, I saw Amanda being escorted into the station by 2 detectives. Her theatrical tears had dried up, replaced by visible apprehension as she spotted my father in his chief's uniform. The blood drained from her face as understanding dawned. "Is that her?" my father asked quietly. I nodded, rubbing my wrists. "We ran her ID through the system," one of the detectives said. "It's fake. We're finding multiple identities associated with her fingerprints wanted for questioning and fraud cases in 3 states. My father turned to me. "You said something about having evidence." "I did, but she took it when she set me up. The original files are on my laptop at home, and my private investigator has copies." "Detective Morrison," my father called, and a sharp, featured woman stepped forward. "I want a team at my son's apartment now. Full evidence collection. And get a warrant for all of this woman's electronic devices and financial records." Within an hour, the situation had completely reversed. Amanda sat in an interview room, no longer playing the victim, as detectives presented her with evidence of her previous identities. Tyler had been picked up at a hotel, where he was apparently preparing to leave town. My statement was taken properly this time, with attention to every detail of Amanda's scheme. The bruise was self-inflicted. Detective Morrison informed us after her interview with Amanda. Once we confronted her with evidence of her previous scams, she admitted to hitting herself with her fist to create the injury. The jewelry was part of her collection of items taken from previous victims. She planted it in your apartment when she realized you had discovered her scheme. I should have felt vindicated, but mostly I felt hollow. 3 years of my life, invested in a relationship that had been a calculation from the beginning, trust that would take years to rebuild. My father placed a hand on my shoulder, a rare gesture of physical support. Let's get you home. This will be a long process, but it ends tonight. The weeks following Amanda's arrest were a blur of legal proceedings, police interviews, and personal recalibration. The evidence against Amanda and Tyler mounted quickly, as authorities in multiple states coordinated their investigations. What emerged was a sophisticated operation targeting financially stable professionals, primarily men across the northeastern United States. Detective Morrison became my primary contact at the department, updating me on developments while maintaining professional boundaries, despite my father's position. We've identified 7 previous victims, she told me during a follow-up interview. Your case is unique because you discovered the scheme before marriage. Most victims only realized what happened after their accounts were drained and their credit destroyed. The arresting officers formally apologized, admitting they had rushed to judgment based on Amanda's convincing performance. We should have investigated more thoroughly before making an arrest, the older officer acknowledged, though the embarrassment in his eyes suggested my father's involvement had prompted this contrition. Local media caught wind of the story, particularly the dramatic arrest and revelation of my father's identity. For a brief, uncomfortable period, I received interview requests and unwanted attention. Headlines like "Police Chief's Son Targeted in Romance Scam" made me cringe, but they also brought forward additional victims who recognized Amanda's or Tyler's photos. Recovery was multifaceted and challenging. First came the financial audit, documenting every unauthorized transaction Amanda had initiated. The joint account we had established for wedding expenses was completely empty, but fortunately, my personal accounts and investments had been secured before significant damage occurred. She was playing a longer game with you, my financial advisor explained. The small withdrawals were just tests. Based on what happened to the other victims, she was positioning for a major transfer immediately after your wedding. More difficult was the emotional and social recovery. Friends I had neglected during my relationship with Amanda tentatively reached out, unsure how to address what had happened. We tried to tell you something seemed off about her, my friend Lucas admitted over drinks. But she was so convincing, and you seemed happy. After a while, it was easier to just decline your invitations than deal with her controlling everything. My sister Elaine had harbored stronger suspicions. There was something calculated about the way she engaged with family, she confessed, when she flew in from Chicago to support me. Like she was performing rather than participating. But I thought maybe it was just nervousness about joining the family. The professional impact was another hurdle. Though my firm was understanding, clients were occasionally reluctant to trust me with their finances after media coverage suggested I had been easily duped. The irony that my caution and investigation had actually prevented disaster was often lost in the simplified narrative. Through it all, my father became an unexpected source of strength. The case seemed to bridge the gap that had existed between us for decades. We began meeting weekly for dinner conversations, gradually expanding beyond the investigation to deeper topics we had long avoided. I failed you after your mother died, he acknowledged one evening, surprising me with his candor. I buried myself in work because facing you meant facing her absence. By the time I realized what I had done, the distance seemed too great to cross. And now I asked. Now, I have a second chance to be your father, if you'll allow it. These conversations became a form of therapy, helping me process not only Amanda's betrayal, but also long-standing family wounds. Professional therapy was equally crucial. Dr. Harris specialized in helping fraud victims, addressing both the practical aftermath and the psychological impact. What you are experiencing is a particular form of grief, she explained. Not just for the relationship you thought you had, but for the future you had envisioned, and for your perception of your own judgment. She helped me understand that Amanda's success came from expertise in manipulation, not from any fundamental flaw in my character. We worked through exercises to rebuild confidence in my instincts and ability to trust appropriately rather than becoming permanently suspicious. 6 weeks after the arrest, Jessica reached out, her message hesitant and apologetic. I should have been more direct about what I was seeing, she wrote. Amanda had been my friend for years, but something changed after your engagement. I noticed discrepancies in her stories, saw her with Tyler, in situations that contradicted what she told you. I tried to warn you, subtly afraid of being wrong, or of her retaliation if I was right. I am so sorry. Her honesty was refreshing. We met for coffee, and I discovered that Jessica had also provided valuable information to investigators once the case broke open. Our friendship developed slowly, based on mutual respect and careful rebuilding of trust. 3 months after Amanda's arrest, I accepted a transfer to my firm's Seattle office. The move offered professional advancement, but more importantly, it provided distance from the events and attention in Boston. My father surprisingly supported the decision. Running away and starting fresh are different things, he said. You are doing the latter. The legal proceedings continued for nearly a year. Amanda and Tyler eventually accepted plea deals rather than face trials in multiple states. The sentencing hearing provided a kind of closure as I delivered a victim impact statement. Looking at Amanda, in her prison jumpsuit expression, carefully contrite for the judge's benefit, I felt not hatred, but a profound sadness for the genuine connection I had thought we shared. My statement focused not on vengeance, but on the human cost of her actions. The financial damage can be calculated and addressed, I told the court, but the damage to trust, to one's faith in human connection, that is harder to quantify or repair. Amanda received 8 years, Tyler 6, with additional charges pending in other jurisdictions. I felt no satisfaction at the sentence, only relief that their scheme had ended. By the time I marked 1 year in Seattle, my life had found a new equilibrium. The promotion I received recognized my professional resilience. My relationship with my father had evolved into weekly video calls and quarterly visits. New friendships formed slowly but genuinely, without the whirlwind intensity that I now recognized as a warning sign. Jessica and I maintained contact, our friendship gradually deepening as we both processed our experiences with Amanda. When she mentioned considering a job opportunity in Seattle, the possibility felt hopeful rather than threatening. The most profound change was internal. I had learned to trust my instincts, to recognize manipulation tactics, to value authenticity over intensity in relationships. The experience had forced me to reevaluate success, happiness, and connection in fundamental ways. I occasionally receive updates about new victims coming forward, about additional charges being filed. Each notification is a reminder of how differently my story could have ended without the investigation I initiated and my father's timely intervention. Looking back now, I realize that Amanda's betrayal painful, as it was led to unexpected growth, reconnection with my father, deeper, more authentic friendships, a stronger sense of self and purpose. The worst moment of my life ultimately directed me toward greater authenticity and resilience. Have you ever faced a betrayal that ultimately led to positive change in your life? Sometimes our greatest challenges reveal our true strength. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might need to hear that even the darkest betrayals can lead to new beginnings. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming life's unexpected challenges. Thank you for listening to my journey from deception to truth, and I hope your own path, whatever its challenges, leads you to genuine connection and peace.